First of all, we're producing twice as much food as we need right now. So this whole like, oh, we got to feed the world and we got to do it cheaply is just not true. I can't get into natural grocers because they want $1.30 for a pint of cherry tomatoes because they're getting certified organic from Mexico where they pay $1 an hour and I'm paying $25 an hour. So that's what we're competing against, right? So
that's pretty easy math.
The Real Organic Project got a meeting with Tom Vilsack, who was the Secretary of Agriculture at the time, and we were like, look, these chicken CAFOs are giving organic a really bad name, you know? And he said, I hear you, but there's absolutely nothing I can do because both sides are against you. I think you and I probably always knew it was pretty industrial and corporate, and we were skeptical of it. So I never really felt like as much a part of organic as the guys who have been doing it forever, you know? Learned how to farm from Elliot, so always wanted to use that word, but went many years of my farming life where I wasn't an organic farmer, right? Yeah, I think that's been the shame of the organic movement is that you've got all these organic farmers and they can't use the word.
Welcome to the Market Gardener Podcast, where we believe that small-scale farming is changing the world. Join us for insightful conversations with people who are working to build a better future. A future with less mass production and more production by the masses. The revolution is in the field. Let's get digging. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Tunnel Vision Hoops, makers of some of the best DIY season extension structures on the market, friends. Whether you're looking to extend your growing season or protect your crops from harsh weather, Tunnel Vision Hoops has you covered. Their high tunnel kits are strong, durable, easy to assemble, and fully customizable to fit your farm's needs. And many of our Market Gardener students swear by them, which is why I'm so happy that they're supporting the podcast. These guys are awesome. If you're serious about season extension, and that's where the profit really is, friends, check them out at tunnelvisionhoops.com or call 833-886-6351. Again, that number, 833-886-6351. So, I don't get to say that often, but today I get to. I'm more than impressed by the person that I'm meeting today for this podcast.
Thank you, JM. Likewise.
And the reason is I've come to understand and realize the scale and the scope of the fight that we're up against. And frankly, the more you kind of dig into that, it's kind of scary. And you realize that there needs, you know, when you really care about these things, about organic and what it stands for, you're like, we need to stand up. And so my voyage in this has been often feeling, disempowered, not, kind of feeling like not really empowered by this. But then when I talked to you and when I saw you and when you gave that talk last time we were together.
It was a good day, huh?
At the symposium? Yeah. And you're such a powerhouse.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And all the talks were so good that day.
They were. Yeah. They all were. You're right. Yeah. Yours was I was kind of picking up who's standing up and who's picking a fight. Yeah. And who's willing to call out people.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a brave, courageous person. I really admire you. So I'm really pleased to have you today.
Thank you. I've had role models that have shown me the way, right? Mm-hmm. So I have to step into those shoes because I'm among company that's not afraid to do that.
It's not always an easy way to just kind of stand up and say, no, I'll disagree, or just kind of confront in a way if you want. Just it's not me. And most people don't really like that.
Yeah.
Because
it's not fun.
It's not comfortable.
I just had to do it at the Canadian Organic Trade Association meeting. And everybody there in the room was completely like-minded. But there's always, the last meeting I was at, there was someone from Driscoll's there. Mm-hmm. And I name names. I talk about Driscoll's in my talks. There was someone from a big hydroponic tomato growing. I'm going to actually respect his privacy because he came up to me afterwards and we had over an hour-long talk about all that's going on. And I really appreciate that he was honest with me. Yeah. Because the talk with Driscoll's lasted about a minute because they just lie.
Yeah.
And this guy, he was able to tell me everything that's going on.
The inside.
Yeah. And I'm going to respect that he was honest with me. He talked about how stupid the regulations are sometimes. And, these guys, they don't even believe in organic.
No, they believe
So
in making
they
money
make fun of it. Yeah.
Capturing the whole market.
Yeah. And they talk about how silly it is, the difference between the Canada regulations, which allow you to grow in containers, but they limit the fertility to 20%.
Okay.
And he's like, well, that just doesn't work. And it's like, the second you take soil out of the equation, none of this makes sense. And I'm like, I agree with you. You're basically a hydroponic system now. And I showed him a picture of my greenhouse and the soil. And, he was talking about having to rinse the substrate afterwards and start over and all the diseases he gets. And I was like, oh, just apply some compost and it works.
It's like, aren't we talking about plants here, man? Like,
yeah.
Where do they grow?
Yeah. And so there's something,
I think it's because their baseline is we need to feed the world. So they need to
he said that a million times.
Yeah, a million times. Cheaply.
Organic.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheap organic,
so if it's not working, let's change the rules.
Yeah.
The rule doesn't work. We can't grow organically cheap, so let's change the rules.
Well, and it's all subsidized on the other side. So that's what Marion Nessel said, who, came to our meeting. She said if we just flipped it so that we were subsidizing organic, and that's not revolutionary because we're already subsidizing something, then it would be a totally different story price point wise.
Chris, you should have been there actually at that meeting because it was the most radical event that I've ever been to. When I say radicals, the conversations, the conferences, it was talking about a revolution. But these were people in their 50s, their 60s, their 70s. It wasn't like these people in their 20s. It was like these adult people.
But there were some young people there too.
I know, but I mean like the people calling out for revolution. And I was like, wow, like that's the first time that I kind of hear that. When people, they grow older, they kind of mellow out.
Yeah, revolution and
they're jaded.
And oldness are not usually together, you could say.
And it was very mindful. It was all clearly explained why and how. And anyway, I came out of that really impressed with all of this.
It's when you have a little more time to give back. They've had their farm. Mm-hmm. They've worked really hard. They've been successful. And now a lot of them are retiring. And they're trying to find that fire that they had when they were younger, the whole reason why they did this. And they have more time to give back. So it's a good model. I appreciate that. And of course, if you're trying to make your farm survive, you don't have time, right? I get it.
Kids and the farm.
Yeah.
Like
We've all been through that.
Yeah.
So it's easier to say when you have a little more time.
Yeah. So let's back up a little bit because someone listening might be wondering, what are these problems you're talking about? I'm sure that you can infer, and you probably, if you're listening, know who our guest is, which is Linley Dixon, the co-director of the Organic Project. And so, from my view, like the other half, we've met Dave Chapman a few times now, but there's always, you're the voice that greets every episode pretty much, as far as I know, I think most of the time, right? Of your podcast. And the first thing I want to ask you is that the last time Dave Chapman was here, he said a really beautiful line that I remember, which is, if you're not confused, you're not paying attention.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And I would like for you to give us the story behind that. What leads someone to say that? Why do we live in a world where the harder you look at things, the less you understand it? I mean, maybe that's true about a lot of things, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I think they want us to be confused.
Who's they?
Good question. The man, right?
All right.
Those that have a lot of power, money and power, like it when we're confused, because then we just kind of say, well, I don't know what I'm getting. And all this organic, I've heard bad things about it. It's fraudulent, so I might as well just buy conventional. And so if they can insert a little bit of doubt into something that's really good, then it doesn't work very well. And it's kind of a known tactic.
Yeah. So are you saying that people right now, they go to the grocery store, they see organic, they're not convinced that means something good?
Well, and that's what the Real Organic Project is saying too, right? We had for a long time a marketplace where organic was working for small farms as an alternative. I'm sure you know the dairy story in New England with Danone and Horizon. So Horizon pulled out of New England. They still wanted to sell Horizon milk, but they pulled out sourcing from New England. And all of the small farms that really were converting from conventional to organic started going out of business there. Organic Valley was able to pick some of them up, but the price point is still way below the cost of production. So we went from a marketplace that was working for conventional farmers to switch over to organic. And then it went back the other direction.
So when was the marketplace working for organic growers?
I think it was for maybe the first 15 years.
So like from when to when exactly?
2000 was when the legislation was passed in the US. 2002 was when the regulations came into place. And then for about 15 years, maybe that's a little too generous, but there was a lot of conversion. And, there was marketplace access for veggie farmers too. And I think a lot of this started because, the Dave Chapmans of the world, so, what are these tomatoes that are priced so low year round that I'm now competing against? And, he thought it was just a mistake. These are hydroponic
that was
tomatoes.
2015, 16,
around
17.
there.
Well, the legislation was in 2017. Is that right?
2017 was when we
legislation.
had the big rally, and we got a lot of farmers to come to those meetings and talk about the hydroponic issue because we were trying to pass at the National Organic Standards Board level something like what Canada has just put into place, which is a 20% limitation on liquid fertility that goes into containers. So we thought, okay, let's come up with a compromise. We didn't even get that passed. So basically, the National Organic Program is saying you can grow hydroponically. We have no problem with that. But everywhere else in the world, you can't do that, including Canada. And I was talking at this meeting with this guy who grows hydroponic tomatoes, and he was saying, well, I get certified by the NOP in the US. I just ship them to Canada. And that's something
Seriously?
that they're denying.
Come on, you can do that?
Yes. And so, when we talk to the powers that be in Canada, they're like, no, we don't allow that.
Yeah, that's
But I'm hearing from
That it's easy to...
the industry that's what they're doing. And they're saying, well, we want to just set up a facility in Canada, grow completely hydroponically, grow according to the NOP. So that way we can at least be close to where we're, and we don't have to go across the border. But you can't do that. If you grow in Canada, you have to do that 20% limitation on liquid fertility.
Yeah.
So he's saying, well, that's silly. That's ridiculous. And none of these guys believe that any of this makes any sense. They just want to grow hydroponically and call it organic. So they're trying to say, Canada, come on, just loosen your standards so that we can set up in Canada because we're already shipping to you anyway.
And I'm imagining that you were there to, call out and say, this is coming. Be aware.
Yes.
Be mindful.
Yes. Yes.
Because, Canadians, we can be like very naive. We're all, this is a great place. And
I don't think it's intentional, but of course you want to present that it's working. And so after I spoke, everybody was like, well, that's what the US is dealing with. But here in Canada, it's all working. And then afterwards, this guy comes up from this huge hydroponic brand in the US and says, well, we clearly are shipping to Canada. And, he just tells me this.
And
I didn't know any of this ahead of time. I was just like, oh, thank you, for giving me all these details.
What do you tell to the person that says, what's the big deal? Why does it matter that hydroponic is organic? I don't care. Talk to that person.
First of all, we have the law on our side. So hydroponic has a definition by law, and it's a very regenerative definition. If you look at it, it's just soil health everywhere over and over again both in the regulations and the legislation. So, we're trying to protect something for a reason because people fought really hard to make sure that it was protected by law. Once you farm, you get it, and you take one look at the picture from our farm, from Dave's farm, of what it looks like in the greenhouse. And he's got pipe rail, he's got plants that run 80 feet at the end of 10 months, So a lot of it looks similar, but then you look at the soil, and we've got some pictures of the difference between our greenhouse and then you start talking about all the problems that they're having, and I just don't have those problems. So there's a lot that actually makes sense once you're doing this. It's so intuitive to a farmer that the health of the soil, once you maintain it, you really don't get a lot of problems. Of course, you got to do some environmental stuff in a greenhouse as well.
Yeah.
But healthy soil does make healthy plants. And there's all kinds of things that we talked about that he's dealing with that I just don't deal with because the soil is healthy.
Yeah.
We're applying compost maybe once every 3 weeks and just surface apply it on top of the drip lines. And that's how we get our fertility. And they're applying liquid fertility every time they irrigate.
But the real issue has never been about explaining how organic is superior or different. It's now the real issue is now some of the products are being sold as organic and they're not.
Right.
Which is a ripoff.
It's a fraud issue.
It's a fraud.
Yeah.
So how did you, we've heard the story on this podcast before of the Reorganic Project in the kind of broad sense. You could repeat that if you will, and you already did to a certain extent just now, but how did you personally come into the fold? How did you end up the co-director of this project?
Yeah.
And we should mention that you have one PhD too?
No, one PhD.
One PhD. That's enough. That's enough. It's quite impressive in soil science.
Yeah, I did do a master's in soil science. My PhD is in plant pathology.
Okay.
And study tomato diseases. So it overlapped a little bit with what I need to know for growing. And then I did do a postdoc studying mycology. So it's fungi from diseases from around the world.
It's always close, 2 PhD.
Postdoc research. I was living outside of the USDA in Beltsville at this USDA research facility. And I had my daughter. This was 15 years ago because she's 15 now. And my husband was teaching high school biology, and we both looked at each other and we're like, all right, it's time. We're going to start the farm now because we don't want to raise our daughter in DC traffic, and we're going to do something different. We met in Colorado. So we both quit our jobs. This is the stupidest thing. Nobody should do this. We quit our jobs with a baby and drove out to Colorado and started a farm.
A lot of people
no land.
Do that though.
Oh my gosh. But talk about setting yourself up for a lot of hardship, right?
Yeah.
And we thought we had savings, but that disappeared really quickly, especially when we were looking at land. So we rented a farm for 8 years before they put it up for sale. And we were just like, we're never going to be able to make this work. So we quit. We actually quit farming. And
this would have been what year?
2018.
Okay.
Were you disappointed or happy, or how was it?
Oh, it was really disappointing. It was really hard, but it was just it's not working financially. And we were sick of renting land. And we just didn't. Of
course.
We're out where you need to have water rights. And if the land has water, it's incredibly expensive. $50,000 an acre or something like that, or more.
Yeah, and that's a problem that's unheard of for us. We get droughts some summers, but there's not really we're usually too much water.
And the price of land is not attached to water.
Exactly.
Rights.
Exactly.
So we get a knock on the door, and through the grapevine, social capital you build up over time. We had a CSA, and word was spreading that we weren't going to come back. And this guy was like, we've got some land. I'd never met him before. He had heard through the grapevine that we were quitting. We hear you're a farmer. Let's see would you like to rent some land? And I was like, no, close the door. We're not renting anymore. 2 weeks later, we got another knock on the door. And he was like, my wife told me to come back and talk to you again. And we eventually got to the point where I explained why it's been so hard. And, we were developing trust in each other and feeling each other out. And he had this piece of land that he had bought in foreclosure, and his son was running a landscaping business off of it. And he was mowing along the side of a river, and the land collapsed, and the tractor flipped over on him, and he died.
Oh my goodness.
And so he's trying to honor his son and get farmers on the land. And, I found this out after a couple conversations with him. So a really long story short, we're close with the family now. We were able to move on to the land. We worked out a deal where we could, for 2 years, rent while we were applying for an FSA loan, which allows for really low interest for farmers. And in order to get that, the FSA loan only covers half of the price of the land, and then you have to go out and get a regular mortgage for the other half. And I was not able to qualify. So I got an off-farm job, and that's how I started meeting the farmers that are behind the Real Organic Project, because my off-farm job was to study all the inputs that were being requested to be part of organic. And,
So they had interest in you because you had an insider.
Yeah, but it was before Real Organic Project started. So I was actually working for a nonprofit called
Your
the Cornucopia.
PhD was what
it helped,
put in you.
Yes,
Okay.
get me an off-farm job. So I worked for the Cornucopia Institute, which mostly like worked for consumers to protect organic. And I was going to these meetings twice a year to define what organic is. And then all of a sudden these farmers started showing up and I was like, oh, I want to be with them, you know, because I'm a farmer too. And it just felt right.
Yeah.
More than looking at it from the consumer angle. I was like, oh, I am more aligned with the farmers in this fight. So that's how I got caught up in all this. Like we went to demonstrations all over. I mean, I was one in Boulder. They had these little keep the soil and organic protests.
I was at the one in Princeton, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I hear the one at Thetford was really exciting and big and like tractor rally and all that stuff.
I've seen a video of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your job was to examine things that were being like products that were coming to be, whether or not it should be approved for organic. That's what you were doing?
Yeah, that was one of the things I found out at this meeting, that there's only the national list of what's allowed in organic is much smaller in Canada than it is in the US.
Okay.
And do you know OMRI, which is,
OMRI
approved inputs?
Yeah.
They're like, we have a couple hundred approved products in Canada, and then we have thousands of approved products in the US.
Always
so
like for a Canadian grower like ourselves, like there's all these products that in organic we'd like to use, but we can't.
Yeah. And in the US, they figure out a way. There's just a different capitalist mentality.
Do you have examples of some things? Were there things that shocked you? Were you like, what? This is? Or
yeah, I mean, just how much liquid fertility, nitrogen, how many sources there were. And if you looked at the sustainability behind all those. I mean, first of all, if you just apply nitrogen, you're going to burn up the carbon in your soil really quick. I mean, if you think about a compost pile, and they always say 3-to-1 ratio, if you're just adding the nitrogen, that one without the carbon, you're just going to balance things out for what life wants, you're going to burn up the carbon. So I just was like shocked that you could have all this liquid fertilizer used in organic. And it all seemed silly. It's like, that's not what organic is.
Yeah. Well, it's not a very whole systems way of doing things, is it? It's a very conventional, quote unquote, way of thinking. Just, throw this, throw that, throw this, throw that, bada bada bing, you're done.
And the original intent was to have something for when you have your transplants, right? And you need a little bit to get to when you're going to put them in the soil.
Cold soils, perhaps, just to kickstart the plant a little bit.
So that's how it all started. It's on the national list for occasional use. And then when it becomes the whole system, then you have a problem.
Okay, so that's how it happened.
Yeah.
It was voted in slowly for a good reason.
Yeah.
And then it just
became the system. Yeah.
So then how did you end up co-director of Real Organic? How did you find your way to this, you're at the top of this fight, this movement?
Yeah, I started out and my job was to just build out the program. It's just Dave and I. And
is it just like you just connected with Dave and you were like, I like you, I want to work together? Is like, just kind of organically like
at
that?
Some of these rallies, you had to give speeches. So as part of being with the Cornucopia Institute, I was giving speeches, and I think Dave liked what I said. I had a kind of a revolutionary mother who taught me to be not accept things. So I came from a Quaker background, at some Quaker schools, and just, speak truth to power type mindset. So Dave has never taken a salary from the Real Organic Project. I was the first person that got hired to go out and build the certification program. And it was crazy because, not everybody loved us. So I had to go talk.
You're talking about the NOFAs.
No, NOFAs didn't love us either, but farmers,
farmers, were,
okay, why are you called the Real Organic Project? They were afraid that we were out to destroy. And the mindset at the time was, well, you try to fix these problems behind the scenes, behind closed doors, but publicly you tell everybody
it's all good.
It's all good, which is like what Canada's doing right now, in my opinion.
It's not you. You're not like that.
Well, I just like to tell the truth. We got to work on these things, and I understand that people are afraid that people will just stop buying organic if they find out. But the reality is
true.
It's true.
Yeah.
The reality is the Washington Post is going to find out, and they did, and they told, a series of huge exposés on all the problems going on in organic. So if we don't fix it internally, then, and, the press is going to find out, people will find out eventually. So I think it's best to be transparent about what we're working on and defend it from within, as opposed to someone coming in and saying, look at you guys, this is all fraud. That's worse.
Yeah.
I think that's worse optics. So I think it actually shows a lot of integrity when the organic movement itself is saying, here are the problems we have, and we're working on them, and we're trying to protect organic.
If you rewind a couple of years back, could you have imagined that the scale and the scope was what it is?
We're the same generation, so there was skepticism there of organic. I think it was most shocking to the generation of Dave's and older who built it.
Yeah. They were like, they stole it from us.
Well, they were shocked. They really thought that they had won by getting the legislation passed, and then it worked. For a really short time, actually, surprisingly. But I think you and I probably always knew it was pretty industrial and corporate, and we were skeptical of it. And it was, I didn't get certified organic until I had land. And because it's like, there were so many other barriers, so I never really felt like as much a part of organic as the guys who have been doing it forever, learned how to farm from Elliot. So I always wanted to use that word, but went many years of my farming life where I wasn't an organic farmer, right?
Natural.
Yeah.
All these other words.
Yeah. You just didn't, I grow using organic practices.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the shame of the organic movement, is that you've got all these organic farmers and they can't use the word.
Yeah.
That's true. When I started farming, it was the same way. I felt a distrust because I saw, almond milk farms in California, or not almond farms, and just 1,000 acres, but it was, I don't know, just, it's like, that doesn't seem right. Like, look at my farm. We're doing it right. And this doesn't look right at all. So
plus the extra
100%, there was
the extra cost. Like certified, getting certified costs money, paperwork, and it's a real, fortunately for a small farm, especially when you're starting out, it's one more thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something I want to talk about today. Perhaps not now.
Yeah.
But I want to make the call to action that we should all get certified.
I understand it's kind of a journey, so I'm not sure it's good advice to tell someone who doesn't have land yet, doesn't have markets, still trying to figure out how to grow, that's their priority, because it certainly wasn't for me. And it's $2,000. It's like 1% of what the farm grosses goes to certification. But just that, when you're able to,
when you're established,
when you're more established, it makes sense. And if you do want your farm to grow, we get tomatoes on grocery store shelves now, and it's the next step. So you want that label. You won't realize it at the time, but you want that label to have meaning.
Yeah.
Once you need it.
Okay. So one thing that I learned that even wasn't clear to me. So the real organic label is an add-on.
Yes.
So you're certified USDA, you go through that process, and then you can check a box that you want also the ROP.
Right. And you can't do that with every certifier. If your certifier is one of these good certifiers that won't certify hydroponics, they'll inspect for the Real Organic Project.
Okay.
But if you're certified by like a CCOF, who is like the biggest hydroponic certifier in the world, will have to go to your farm for you.
Okay. But you're still certified USDA organic.
You have to be USDA first. And the reason is because we want to use that word, organic.
And then you have an add-on.
Yeah.
And then that's a sticker. That's part of the journey. That's the whole other adventure.
Yeah. But you heard Emily's talk at Churchtown.
Yeah,
what did you think of Emily's talk? You want to tell everybody what you heard?
I cried I cried the whole way. First of all, Emily Oakley, I had heard her name many, many times. She's around, my age, and I know that she was a leader in our movement, but I had never really kind of seen her or listened to her. And she gave a talk. It was probably 45 minutes. Was it?
It was one of our TED Talks, so shorter. Yeah. But
and she actually read something, and my God, it was the most profound thing that I had ever been read. I really felt like Barack Obama was giving a speech. Yeah. It was got the same impression I had. It was like, wow. And she was explaining, the whole journey and getting certified. She has a small farm. It's like it's a two-person operation.
Yep.
And then in the end, she's just calling out for everyone to get certified, and she was calling out also for ROP to what? What was their big thing?
To be a standalone.
To be a standalone.
So that it's not an add-on. Yeah.
And she was kind of like, oh, everyone's like, oh. And then Dave Ken said, that would be $10 million if somebody has that in the room. Which perhaps some people did.
Yeah, it's possible that we could come together and raise that. But I think what was so shocking for me is that it was Emily saying this, because I watched Emily when she was on the National Organic Standards Board, and she believed in certification, and she still does. She just doesn't believe the USDA should be the ones entrusted to do it anymore. But when I first met her, she was mad at Elliot for not getting certified organic.
Okay.
And, Elliot is organic. He lives and breathes that word. So she really thought that the USDA organic certification was the way to go. And she worked for the National Young Farmers Coalition to write a piece on why you would get certified organic as a small farm, direct market, even if you don't need it for marketing. So it's really surprising to me. And I saw her fight on the National Organic Standards Board, and she's so bright, so eloquent and fiery.
Oh, she's like,
I would love to be placed in that company, but yeah, she's very well spoken. So it was crazy to me to see her calling for that, because she has believed in it.
Is her talk online yet? Or
yes, we just released it.
It is. Okay.
We'll
share
so people can go look for that.
Yeah, we'll share it.
It's a good one.
It's definitely a good one.
Yeah.
And Linley, what would be give us your elevator pitch to a farmer that is organic certified, but you're telling them they should maybe do real organic certification. And then also, how do they go through the process? I want the farmer listening to understand what I want it. What do I do? Or should I get it?
Yeah. And it's open to Canadian organic growers as well.
All right.
So the goal is to come together as a movement to protect organic. So that's why you would do it, is to be part of an organic movement that believes it needs protecting right now. And I think the more you learn, the more you realize how much being quiet about this was not working. Because basically from the beginning, they were allowing completely confined chicken CAFOs to get certified, and the outdoor access required by law was just a concrete porch.
Yeah, a joke.
And we were working behind the scenes. People before my time were working behind the scenes to get that reformed for a long time, and we're still working on that. And the same thing with dairy, how long that's been going on. So you see that trying to fix this quietly is just completely failing.
And the whole time, people are just losing trust more and more. So when people are going to the stores, they're seeing the organic label, and so many consumers are now privy to, I don't trust it.
Yeah.
And then so that's a problem. I mean, and it's compounding itself.
But not just that. A lot of people are buying these products thinking that they're doing the right thing, which I think is worse.
That too.
Right.
Like you see these really nice, egg cartons, and they look, free range eggs, like from this farm, and you're like, this is a CAFO.
Yeah. And you see why you need regulation, because the word pasture doesn't mean a thing, right? So you see why you go through the process of trying to define these words, because they're just using them without any definition behind them. But in the end, you need enforcement. If you get a rule, which we did for organic, then you need enforcement, and that's what was lacking.
And so how do you get real organic certified?
It's free, and you just apply online. It takes about 20 minutes to tell us about your farm, and then we'll come inspect, or your inspector will come.
Okay.
Your USDA inspector will come take a look, and there's a checklist of things. You have to be a whole farm, committed to organic practices. There are some worker protections, so just basically understanding what rights your workers have. Those are part of the standards. And obviously soil health. We look at some biodiversity on your farm, just a lot of the things that the USDA is not doing.
Yeah, it should be doing.
Yeah.
Should have been doing.
Yeah.
Destroying Walmart versus changing Walmart. I want to talk about
Don't ask me, please.
This kind of two ways of looking at things, because the Real Organic Project is right in there in that question of, if we want to change things, do we need to just destroy what's wrong, or do we want to change it? And I feel like you've thought about this a lot. Where do you kind of see things right now in terms of that?
Well, I'm obviously influenced by the Dave's generation, because they've seen this unfold a lot longer than we have. So I think that there was a time fairly recently when it was like, well, let's bring the Walmarts to the table. And because if they don't change, we're not going to make a difference. And then over time, they kind of learned that all they were doing was just delaying the process, right? They would slow it down and they would say, well, we're going to do these things, and then they don't do them. So I think for a while, the pendulum was like, oh, let's change Walmart. But now we're realizing they're just changing us. When we bring them to the table, they just have too much power. So they end up ultimately changing us. And that's what happened with organic. It's like, well, let's bring these big businesses in. And then ultimately they have so much money and power, they just change what organic means. So I think it's kind of naive to think that we can change Walmart. So we kind of just have to do our own thing and like be this little oasis for where it works for when we're needed and when people wake up, you know?
Yeah, at its core, Real Organic is still a grassroots movement first and foremost, you would say.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily looking for top-down change, but bottom-up.
Yeah, and I think we'd love top-down change if we thought it worked.
Right. What about the idea of the pincer movement of coming from both sides and closing in? I mean, I think we all like try that. Just, we don't want to just try nothing from the top, I suppose. We're hoping that something can come from the top, but we try and we try and we try, and it just feels like we're always hitting a wall. So I guess grassroots always feels like, I don't know, the only way to go sometimes.
I mean, it's where I feel most at home, but I am part of groups that are trying to do political reform and, what we used to be doing. So there's a group called Organic Farmers Association, and I'm part of them. But I'm much more at home here in this kind of grassroots with my people, Mm-hmm. So that feels right. But yeah, I think you still need all those angles. You need like what you said, but you got to find where you fit, for your life's work.
Exactly. The cost of food for the consumer is, I feel like, a never-ending hot topic, and especially in the world of organic, because some people want to blame the farmer. They say, "Why? Oh, you're farming this way, but it costs that much." And then other people want to purely blame the system or the customers. That is, the customer's fault for not buying organic and for not realizing that this is how much food costs. And it's, where do you kind of see yourself now on this issue, and how do you think about it?
Yeah, I think we're not getting the real prices. It's funny, this guy, Paul Holmbeck, came from Europe. He's Organic Denmark. And he got it so that all the organic movement came together with the environmental groups, and they really fought for organic to be part of like institutional buying for all the schools, all the hospitals, all the cafeterias that, in Denmark, so they got a lot of organic buying, and every restaurant had to put a percentage of what percentage that they bought that was organic. So they had these huge wins.
Wow.
And I just think that we're not going to be able to do stuff like that. It's Denmark, right? But you were talking about price point.
I'm just happy that you didn't go on and say, but in the end, there's a backfire to that story. There wasn't.
It's working. It's working in Denmark.
So there's hope.
Yeah. And actually, Canada just had Paul Holmbeck advise them for like how to do this in Canada. But that's a system where like the government was actually supporting organic. It's flip-flopped.
Right. It's what you said before, that we're subsidizing the wrong side of things. And if we just did it the other way, voila.
Yeah. Yeah. And what they tried to do there too is they have a price. Let's say it's $2.50 for a dozen eggs. And then they had a price next to it, which is true cost accounting. And this is how much these eggs really cost. I'm a little bit skeptical that we can actually come up with a number for what those eggs really cost. Because, how do you put a number on all of the complex ecological eutrophication and all that stuff? Yeah. But whatever, it's a really cool attempt. So that's what they did in Denmark. Here's the cost, here's the true cost. And at least, customers, if you can afford it, you're gonna maybe buy this egg that costs a little bit more, but the true cost over here, that number looks better. So I thought that was a really interesting approach. But that's my response to that. Well, we have to, first of all, we're producing twice as much food as we need right now. So this whole we got to feed the world and we got to do it cheaply is just not true. We're subsidizing fuel, we're subsidizing, all these commodities. So it's artificially cheap and it's artificially too much food. So I think that we just need to figure out, okay, how do we produce a lot less? And because it's just so wasteful with such a heavy carbon footprint.
Yeah.
And how do we produce it so that the government is subsidizing the right kind and not the wrong kind? They're subsidizing something anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean,
that going without subsidies would be...
That would be such a wonderful thing because I know we'd win.
Exactly. And then
overnight, those prices would be so high. Yeah.
What about the negative externalities? The idea that these bigger farms are not paying for a lot of the costs that they're actually incurring on the environment primarily and on the population by all the pollution that gets done. And if they did have to pay for it.
Oh, man. We'd be so cheap.
They're exactly. Organic would be so cheap.
Yeah.
Comparatively. I know it's something that, when you look hard enough, you see that prices are just not real. Like they're not reflective of what is actually happening in any way, shape, or form. And you could say, is organic too expensive, or is just all other food too cheap? I don't know. I always find that problem super complex in a way that feels pretty hard to tackle.
When we were at the conference, there was a talk about monopolies. And that was the talk that really steered me the most. It was a talk about how monopolies have been around for a long time, and in the early 1900s, people fought against concentration of power
to break them up,
and won.
And won. And that I don't remember the name of that lecture that was there. The woman that was speaking.
Is Zephyr Teachout?
Yep.
And she was explaining that we're going through these same kind of motions where everything is so consolidated, so concentrated, and that's the real problem.
It's worse, more concentrated than it was back then.
Yeah. And then whatever we're talking about together about what organic means or should be or could be, like really.
Yeah.
We're fighting something else. We're fighting for democracy. It's like
Absolutely.
I was telling to the listeners. That's why I came back from that, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is like deep." You know?
Did you know that you're just wanting to farm, and what you're doing is such a political act because it's swimming against, upstream against the current,
upstream. And then even in our movement, there's a big push to use more of the phones to sell our products, but that could be good, but there's slippery slopes everywhere, like community-centered food sheds. I think somehow they need to be revitalized, and it needs to be that.
Yeah.
We need to decentralize the food system somehow.
Yeah.
A case for some top-down shifting. Here goes, breaking up monopolies. I mean, it reminds me that Dave Chapman, also the last time he was here, he spoke, I think he asked Michael Pollan, since you wrote Omnivore's Dilemma, is the food system getting better? And he actually said, no, it's gotten worse, but...
The awareness is better.
The awareness is better, but it's actually gotten worse. And it's hard not to feel a little bit of like cynicism about that. I'm like, oh my God, this progress, and yet it got worse. And that you're telling me that the consolidation of money and power is worse than, was it in even the Gilded Age? No, that's probably still worse, no? Or...
I think it's worse now.
My goodness,
is what I understand.
Talking about how Amazon,
when
you're ordering an Uber, if you're low battery, the price goes up. If your battery bar on your phone is like close to, you're gonna run out of battery, the Uber jacks the price. Like it's all organized.
Yeah, it's all engineered.
Conspiratorial.
No, but that's business. It's not conspiracy. It's pure business. Yeah. Why not? If they can have access to that, why not?
It's amazing how much they know, right? Yeah, you're talking about something and all of a sudden you're hit with an advertisement for it. They know everything.
So
this also brings to my mind the comparing a million to a billion. You guys know some of the comparisons of what a million is versus a billion?
No.
So like my favorite one is probably that 1 million seconds is like something like 11 days. And 1 billion seconds is 33 years.
That's a lot of money.
And then you consider that some people in this world have $200 billion. And another one I heard was, if some of these people, we know who, if they spent $1 million every day, it would take them over 1,000 years to spend all their money.
And we know some good things they could do with that. Yeah.
Wow, $1 million a day. Man, you can do a lot of things with that.
I mean, it's just mind-boggling. But yeah, when you consider that level of power versus, this movement, because it does feel like a bit like it's verse. It's not. They're not with us.
There's some that are with us, but they could be giving away a lot more than they are, is your point, I think.
Yeah.
So you've probably had to navigate through doubt and like self-reflection on all of that. And you still find the fire to stand up and to pick a fight and to explain and to share your story.
Well, I think I do because I see that there's only, like even in my community where it's kind of like what I think is happening here from what I hear, where it's like a lot of farms are replicating and it's working and there's a lot of support. We have that in Durango. It's pretty cool. There's a mini small farm revolution around this town because there's a lot of support for what we do. But I see that it just kind of levels off in a lot of the new farms. There's a whole incubator program in the part of the college there. And then they spin off and start farms that they're not succeeding as well. There's kind of like this saturation point where there's only so many customers willing to go to the farmer's market and to sign up for a CSA. And so
there needs to be something else.
Yeah. And that's where as you mature as a farmer and you're like, wow, I'm really good. Dave taught me how to grow tomatoes. I'm really good at this. I can actually step back from farmers market, step back from the CSA, and I can get into the grocery stores because I have that sophistication to be able to supply regularly.
Yeah, the maturity.
Yeah. And that's where you see like, okay, now if I want to get into natural grocers, they require a USDA label. I got to be organic, and that's where you see I might need this label in order to market my stuff. So yeah, I guess going back to what Michael Pollan said, there's a lot more awareness. There is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that feels like we've made leaps and bounds of progress.
But that there's only so many people in a community willing to shop this way.
It makes me think, you just said that the small farms are on the rise, but maybe we're hitting the point where the consumers are not catching up. And then it makes me wonder, is fixing the consumer, that sounds bad, fixing.
No, the education of the customer.
Education of the customer, is that maybe the bigger next step that we have to
I think so. And that's
on.
what gives me hope is that, and why I do this work is because so much of what we do is education. And that's really fun for me is to talk about these issues and then to see people sort of start to get it. Like, why would I go out of my way and support a farmer beyond what I'm already doing, take it to the next step.
And I think that I heard you, and you were very effective because you were showing these hydroponic farms. And that's a very effective way to talk about it.
Yeah, just take a look.
Just take a look. This farm is free range. Have a look on Google Maps. Was it you that talked about you have...
I spent a lot of time on Google Maps.
Yeah, Google Maps. And then
what about
can see the operations.
Herbrooks,
Okay.
Double story, two-story.
Are we allowed to
organic
talk about this?
Chicken CAFOs.
This is great.
I talk about it all the time.
Yeah,
tell us
about...
Beautiful website.
For those listening, we have the Herbrooks website
They're
up
a
now.
Small family farm.
We
for
serve
generations,
the birds.
right?
I do love that. So small family farm amounts to how many chickens per...
Like millions on that facility.
Millions. Yeah, it's tiny. Well, there's a
They know
billion
how to use
microbes in a teaspoon of soil, so.
They like to co-opt our language and pretend like they're one of us. They're actually better at marketing the language that the customer wants to hear more than we are because they have these well-paid people to do this stuff for them, write the language.
Language scientists.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about them?
Okay, so they're in Michigan, and this is just to say this was under Democratic leadership that neither Democrats or Republicans, no matter who's in power, it's gone bad both sides. So they have a two-story facility that used to be conventional. They just converted it to organic, and the outdoor access are these porches where the chickens just don't go out because it's concrete and there's no reason to go out there. First of all, there's millions of birds, so even if you were by the door, they don't even want to go out, but never mind the one that's like can't find the door. So the law requires outdoor access. We had Debbie Stabenow, who was a Democrat at the time, and I believe she was the chair of the Agricultural Committee in the Senate. And we actually got a meeting, the Real Organic Project got a meeting with Tom Vilsack, who was the Secretary of Agriculture at the time. And we were like, look, these chicken CAFOs are giving organic a really bad name, you know? And he said, I hear you, but there's absolutely nothing I can do because both sides are against you. So this is just the way it is, and you need to accept it. That was devastating. I mean, we have since passed, this was under Biden, the OLPS, the Organic Livestock and Poultry Standard. But they've grandfathered in these 2-story buildings because they were organic before. So they're gonna have an extra 5 years. I think it's like 2030 when they have to change. And if you look at the language, you know, they might take away the second story, but they're allowed to have concrete all around the buildings and maybe some dirt way over here. And the chickens aren't going to go out again. So I just even that took 20 years for us to get that legislation through. So I'll say the Democrats historically have been nicer to us than the Republicans. Obama got this chicken problem passed, and then the first Trump administration threw it out. Mm-hmm. And then Biden's administration, we got it passed through again. As far as I know, it still stands, but there's this huge grandfathered in situation.
Will Herbrooks and these other large-scale operations, will they be telling the government that, like, well, you have to approve us because the people are going to starve if not? I mean, is this kind of their marketing to the government? That government is like, oh, what am I going to do? I can't have my people starve.
Can you click on our products? I'd like to see what they sell.
Our values.
Our values is definitely
private label eggs. Eggs.
I actually read through this, and it's all just such a joke, you know, when you think about, like, come on. Because everything makes it sound as if it's just the utmost care, the greatest care. Our chickens.
I'd love to see like their egg cartons because
the happiest chickens in the world.
They have a line somewhere that's like, foraging with their natural behaviors. And I'm like, in the concrete barn, you know, how are they foraging?
It is amazing. I mean, right in the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned about being among, you admired Linley for being able to speak up. Mm-hmm. And you said you were at a conference or something with Driscoll's. And then I thought about those people. How do they do it? You know, these people that are representatives of these companies, they come to a place where they also can sometimes get a lot of hate, and they just stand there and just keep spitting their lie. And I'm like, how did they do that?
They get paid.
I remember once in New Jersey, there was a pipeline that was being proposed, and all of the small farms and any environmentally active person in the community, we went to a meeting in the town to protest against this, and my God, we were just letting them have it. And these 2 or 3 representatives from the pipeline company just sat there and just kept going. And I was like, how are they? I could sense that they were deeply unhappy, but they just kept going. I don't know. That's another side of the coin that's really strange to me.
I think they think if I don't do it, someone else will. And they also don't really believe in organic.
Yeah.
So that's how they justify it. You know, they just kind of roll their eyes. And I think they have to, in order to sleep at night, you have to believe a little bit of the bullshit and just like, well, we're feeding the world. And
for sure there's that.
I mean, the Driscoll's guy, he got up and he was talking about their savings on plastic. The plastic containers like switched over to have like a little bit less plastic in their container.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, the plastic use in their hydroponic production and the whole thing, I mean, it's like plastic pots, plastic overhead, plastic underneath, the plastic drip. It's just plastic everywhere. Oh, yeah. And they're on plastic stands so that when they herbicide the ground, it's allowed to be certified organic because now they're not in contact with the land anymore. So it's just like extra plastic and like thick plastic pots and stuff like that. So anyway, that's their system, and the whole thing goes to the landfill. And then he comes to these conferences and they're like, look at our, pat on the back, look at our plastic savings. So I mean, I don't know. And I actually got really personal with this one guy. It's like, how do you sleep at night?
Good
and
for you.
It's not very effective, because the conversation just shuts down.
Yeah.
But you have to figure out how to be diplomatic, I think, because I had a really great conversation with the hydroponic tomato growers because I didn't attack.
Yeah.
And it got, them to open up a little bit about
Were you the only one
the reality.
Bringing these issues today at the...
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not fun, right?
Yeah.
And, of course, we believe in organic. It's the better way, so...
I was there last year, and I talked about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I talked about what was going on in the US. And
Okay. And I'm sure the line was, well, it's not happening here in Canada,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Meanwhile, a lot of the fraudulent grain is coming through Canada
Exactly.
and getting imported here. So we're connected, right? Huge border, U.S. and Canada. Lots going on.
The grain thing, like that was a conversation that was happening also at the conference. Is like, these are like, this is just paperwork. You know, you have boats loaded with grain that come from different countries, and then it's just fraudulent paperwork, and then it's signed as organic. Boom. Just like that. And then you
Just
have
like
how
that.
many millions of tons of kilos or something that's coming in as organic grain just because they scratched the paperwork.
In Canada and U.S., we've got some grain growers, right? That
it's
could
like-
probably fill those markets.
Yeah.
We're exporting soybeans, and we import 70% of our organic soybeans. And of course, those farmers are going to switch to organic for a higher price point. But there's no market for them because we just import fraud.
Yeah. Import fraud.
Yeah.
That's something, eh?
But I do have a lot of like, I think admiration. It wasn't in me, but for the people that started organic, what they went through at the time. I mean, I think it's easier for us to defend something that has so much recognition now.
Yeah, that's true.
And at the time, they were really fighting people who were just calling them crazy and, you know, voodoo agriculture, all the funny names that they got. So I think that's even harder than
Yeah, and back then,
what we're doing.
the word hippie, you know, really did have quite a divisive
It wasn't
reputation
cool to
in the
be hippie.
culture.
Yeah.
Now we don't even really use the word anymore, and you just kind of use it. It's like, oh, okay, huh, you're a hippie. You just, I don't know, you like the environment. It doesn't mean much, but I know then, you know, or a guy having long hair. There's once upon a time, them hippies. So of course they were battling something for sure.
When we had that day long session together with everyone, there was 300 folks that
Yeah.
were there.
It was a
That
full
was
barn.
last month in the Hudson Valley, in a really amazing barn. And that day ended by, it was Dave actually that had the last word, and he talked about coming together and uniting and just feeling the vibe of being together as a group of like-minded people, of farmers and farm supporters and uniting. And that was, in a nutshell, in my opinion, the only thing that we can do now is just
Yeah.
come together.
Yeah. I
And
know it's hard.
It sounds also kind of like it's nothing much, but
And do
I felt,
what?
But I felt it that day, though, you know, because
Yeah.
we were together and we were standing together on this front, and I just felt, yeah, this. I feel good about that,
Yeah.
you know.
I got to travel to visit all these farms to start Real Organic Project. Now there's lots of other people doing it, but I did get faced with I just want to farm. You know,
Yeah,
I don't want to be
exactly.
I don't want to be political.
I just want to farm,
Yeah.
but you could still give your vote of confidence to an organization that is standing up.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
You know, it's
I
not a
do
big
understand
deal.
the sentiment, but
But it's still it's not a big deal to get certified and to stand
True.
for something.
yeah, yeah. I think that's that little push of just, you know, we're in this together, and you are farming within a food system that is affecting the price point you're going to get and affects the number of customers that come to you. So if you at all agree with what we're talking about, go that extra step to join us
Yeah.
because it does affect you. You can't just farm.
Yeah, and it doesn't have a positive impact if you do. It
Yeah.
does. Like
Oh,
we
numbers
talked about,
help. Yeah.
we talked about having 10,000 farms. That was clearly possible
Mm-hmm.
out there that are currently not certified and farming organically.
Yeah.
And let's say, you know, a fraction of them certify and bring all their customers on board with the message
Yeah.
and the messaging. That's
We're an army.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're getting to 1 million people pretty fast here.
Yeah.
And 1 million, you know, it's not 350 million, but still 1 million. And then 2, 3, 4. So we somehow need
We all
to
have our part.
Yeah,
to
we
play.
need to reshape this argument.
Yeah, and as Dave told us, things are not just the way they are.
Exactly.
And that in his lifetime, McDonald's came into being and reached its height. And how crazy that is. I mean, we can think of many things that have happened in our lifetimes, even us people that are younger than Dave. Where do you see it going?
Ooh.
This episode is brought to you by Activista. For our friends down under, Activista is the source for all your market gardening essentials. From their extensive line of seeders to non-GMO seeds, BCS equipment, and their very own cocoon caterpillar tunnels, they've got it all. And now Activista also carries the Growers & Co. signature range of tools and farmware designed for growers who value quality and sustainability. Activista, friend, is there to support the development of new growers. So feel free to reach out to James, my buddy James, the best guy in the world, and see how he can assist you with discounting on your first order. And let me tell you, their new high-speed website is amazing and makes selecting large seeds and tools order a breeze. So go check them out at activista.com.au. And thanks so much, Activista, for your support. You guys rock. I love you. This episode is brought to you by our friends at the Real Organic Project, a farmer-led movement working to reclaim what organic really means. Friends, you know that the USDA organic label was once powerful, but let's be honest, today it doesn't always stand for soil-grown food or pastured animals. That's why I love what the Real Organic Project is doing. They've created a free, farmer-driven add-on certification that protects the true value of organic farming. They already certify over 1,000 farms across North America, and they bring together growers who believe in healthy soil, real food, and integrity. Check them out at realorganicproject.org and don't miss their really cool and really insightful Real Organic podcast with amazing voices like Elliot Coleman, Vandana Shiva, and yes, me too. Thanks guys for supporting the podcast. Let's unite, let's come together, and let's stop the co-opting of organic.
I know that's like such a kind of cliche question, but I guess if you could imagine the next 10 to 20 years, do you foresee some like major shifts? I mean, I think it's hard to predict what's going to happen right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the world, it just feels very in flux.
Yeah, I can like carve a path for Real Organic because it is in my lap. I would love to carry out Emily's vision of representing all the organic farms out there that are not certified. I pay way too much for organic certification fees right now. It's not working for me. If we were in Denmark, organic certification would be free completely, not just the add-on. The government subsidizes it. The government, there's no third-party inspector. The government is the inspector. So it becomes educational.
Libertarians, watch out. Don't tread on me. I don't know.
It can work multiple ways, and it can be corrupted multiple ways. But the government in Denmark is working for organic right now.
Sometimes the government can do good things.
Yeah. It's funny because Paul Holmbeck says, well, see, we did it in Denmark and just come together. And talking about like really diverse interests in the U.S. having to come together. That would mean, forging relationships with the organic folks that we believe aren't even practicing organic agriculture, but are getting certified. It's kind of what he's calling for, in order to have that level of unitedness to actually get policy change. And Paul Holmbeck is making this recommendation for Canada, and it was an interesting conversation. They're saying if you all come together, because there's organic BC. Do you know this?
Yep.
And
Quebec.
And they don't have any. It's organic British Columbia.
Yeah, but I mean we have the same.
Oh, you have the
Quebec.
same. Okay. Yeah. They were saying that's not an add-on.
No.
That's like a participatory guarantee system where you inspect each other.
Yeah.
And so they have the Canadian organic label, and then they have this organic BC, and they're divided in that one province.
Yeah.
And so Paul Holmbeck is like, come together, Canada, and then fight for this, like what we got, to have a lot of money to come into organic and require labeling and all that stuff. And it was a conversation, what do we lose? What do we gain if we do this?
Yeah.
And I don't think it was clear. I think it's still in flux what Canada's going to do. What do you think?
I think people just don't understand what's happening. Like when I look at the U.S., it's so obvious the concentration of power and the interest of money behind organic. I cannot see that it's not going to happen in Canada. It's like, it's just not there yet.
Yeah.
because
it's there. It's just we're still in the denial phase,
it's a
right?
Denial phase.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of grain growing in the West, but is it organic? It's going to be hard. Like, I just feel it comes back to grassroots, and we should be studying how grassroots has won in the past, and take some of these tactics and see what could be done. But it's a numbers game, but it's not top down.
Yeah, I'm not willing to compromise that much at this point.
Yeah.
I think in Denmark it was easier because the organic was
and their government is not broken.
closer to each other. Yeah.
Also.
Yeah,
it's true. And I rarely say that because I don't want to be, but when from somebody that lives in Canada, and perhaps Chris, you might speak to that. We have free healthcare, free education, we have free daycare. It's
pretty nice to go to college
We
here.
pay a lot of income tax, but we still get something out of it.
For sure.
And sometimes when I look at the US and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many broken parts to that system.
Yeah.
That, before we fix organic, there's fixing university fees, fixing healthcare, fixing daycare, fixing, there's a lot of problems that
it's all connected.
Income disparity is so
income
huge.
disparity, not having a two system where you have this elite food that's organic and top gun, and then you have this poor people's food.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
No.
So there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
So
What works in Denmark might not
exactly.
transfer. Yeah.
There's a small country, Denmark.
Yeah.
It's not the same. If we get something going in India or Brazil, okay.
Yeah.
These are big countries with a lot of disparities, but I think Denmark is not the best example for the US.
Do you have a favorite success story that gives you hope in terms of consumers kind of becoming educated and coming on board? And is there anything that comes to your mind that you've experienced where you're like, wow, okay, we're making progress here?
Yeah, I guess organic the first time around is a good success story. It's just we lost, the USDA didn't do what uphold their end of the bargain. So that would be a good success story.
Do you want to elaborate a bit on how it was, like what was the before and the after in terms of how it was being received by the population?
I think it looked a lot like what the regenerative movement looks like right now, where everybody was saying we're organic, but they weren't. And, then all of these different organic certifications came up to try to define what it meant. And that's what's happening with Regenified. And there's so many different regenerative certifications now just to try to define it so that there could be a marketplace value. And I think, organic has already gone down that path and realized we need to get legislation to describe what we mean when we say it. So I guess that's a big success story. And if we had just kept going down that path, we'd end up where Denmark is. And I think they're doing amazing things.
So there was a sidetrack.
Yeah, I just think capitalism is more rampant in the U.S., I don't know why it works there, not here, but... And to finish where you said where we're going in the future, the only reason why I say standalone label is because I really don't think the USDA is ever going to change. I don't think we're ever going to win there. And we have tried to reform, like good Democrats, we have tried to reform the USDA, and it has just failed over and over again. And it doesn't feel like we're going to win there. So that's why I feel standalone is our only option.
Do you think there's such a thing as critical mass in terms of, we only have 1% of a population farming, but what if it was 3%? And this kind of, do you think there's a point anywhere where it'll just tip, or are you not sure?
Yeah, I do, but I feel like we almost got started too late. So many organic farms are operating outside of USDA because it took too long to start the Real Organic Project. And so I feel like it's like we've already bled too much, so we got to scoop them all back in.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can win again if we do that.
I think that's possible, though.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that's possible.
Okay.
Because of the leadership that's there right now. When I look at you,
too.
when I look at Emily, women...
we've got the right people coming
exactly.
together.
I think that comes a long way. Yeah. If you'd have poor leadership, perhaps not.
Yeah.
People that you don't really trust, you're like, I'm not sure I want to follow that lead.
That's why I'm in this. It's like I like my company. You know, this is a fun group to be in. I feel like it's empowering who's here.
And it feels that it's for the right reasons and it's all good and it has a good feel to it. So, yeah, it's a little bit of money to get certified again and to redo that process. But again, like if you guys are listening, like you're picking a fight and it's important.
Yeah.
You know? What do you think about the people that say, and there's many of these people in the small scale farming movement for sure, that say, you know, the problem, we don't want to change the grocery store. We just want the grocery store to not be a thing. Like we want people.
I used to say that.
And I think
get people out of the store.
And I think you and I and many of us still feel that way to some extent. Like we want to live in a world where people are part of their local community and economy. They go to the farmer's market. They don't just get all their food from the ShopRite or the big store because it's this industrial globalized thing. And yet there's the kind of other side, which is that, you know, because in that world or that point of view, I guess the label would be less important because you know, what we all say is, oh, but the label doesn't matter. You just got to know your farmer. And if you talk to your farmer, you know, that's what everyone says that grows organically but doesn't get certified. They always say that, yeah, no, my policy is, which I think we all get and makes a lot of good sense.
People can visit my farm any day.
But there's this other side. So where do you see things in kind of that way of thinking?
Well, I'm lucky that I started my farm when there was still some room in my community for that kind of relationship. Okay. And I'll tell you, we have kept our farm small because I can't get in at the price point that it takes to any other grocery stores in the area. Like we're just, okay, we'll stay small because I can't get into natural grocers because they want $1.30 for a pint of cherry tomatoes, which is what we specialize in. Because they're getting certified organic from Mexico where they pay $1 an hour and I'm paying $25 an hour. So that's what we're competing against, right?
Yeah,
so
that's pretty easy math.
And I feel like, fine, have 2 price points and the people that like the taste of our tomatoes and want to support a local farmer, they could buy our tomatoes then, but that's not even an option because now you got to go to corporate if you're they don't work with the local grower anymore. And, you know, these aren't career positions. At these grocery stores, they're like college kids making minimum wage. It's not a buyer that's there who really believes in this. So it is so hard for us to even get into the grocery stores if we wanted to. So our farm is tiny, which is fine. It worked for me, but it doesn't work for the next farmer that's trying to get in because we're at the farmer's market. You know what I mean? We're saturated in my community. I've already seen it. And this is a really supportive community.
Unless more consumers enter the scene. That's kind of the pinch point, isn't it?
Yeah, but they got to get all their food on Saturday. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
And so I just feel like there's it's hard to shift this. You know, I want to grocery shop every day and not wait for the farmer's market.
Of course.
You know, so I think we should be there. 2 price points, fine, but we should have some shelf space. It's a little bit tricky to change the system.
Be laws. There could be state laws about that.
Yeah.
We here in our province of Quebec, we could have a law that says, you know, you need to have 20% of your shelf space to local produce. Why not?
Yeah. Do it.
You know, that's possible.
You got a mission now.
No. I'm not getting involved in politics here. I tried.
Yeah?
I tried. I tried for 10 years. I was really involved. I was talking with the Minister of Agriculture quite frequently. And actually, I hope no one's really listening from my gang, but I was so disappointed with our gang.
Okay.
We just didn't step up.
You mean
what were you trying to change?
Farming movement?
Yeah, there was like lots of opportunities. You know, there was lots of listening. There was lots of hearing. And when it was time for us to come up and just propose and be organized and structured and just fucking a minimum.
Was it August?
It wasn't August. It was 10 years.
Okay.
We were disorganized, and the leadership was not great leadership, and it's just like that's why, you know, when I look at you and the work that you do, I'm like so supportive because I'm like, finally there's good leader. Because if you don't have good leadership in a movement, it's going to be really hard to get moving.
Yeah,
it starts with leadership.
Yeah,
and so I was at one point I was trying all my best to use my influence to shift things, but the message I was getting is like, JM, we've tried all of this. No one's answering the phone when we're calling. We have these grants, we have this, we have that, we have shelf space. No one's answering the phone when we call.
What were you trying to shift?
We have five items. We wanted to have shelf space for local produce. Okay. We want to get traction on that, create national campaigns about eating locally and in season, sponsored by the government. And then, the big chains, they didn't have a word to say about that. We were winding up a lot of influencers and we were getting a lot of traction. And that was one. I think getting the message out about eating locally in season is a state thing because depending on where you are, that's going to change.
Yeah.
So for Quebec, that was a big part of our campaign. And it was also about talking about the importance of when we're selling directly, having better definitions of that. Farmers markets, making sure that resellers can't come in. There's all these subtle little things that could have gone.
Yeah.
But the government was like, the Minister of Agriculture was like, okay, well, who am I talking to? You need to have a contact point. And so you need to be organized.
You were busy.
Well, I'm just using my influence. I'm not
the organizer.
I'm not repping. I wasn't voted in. I wasn't any of that.
So there needs to be an organization, an institution or something.
Yeah, there needs to be a body where people vote on processes, on values, on what the agenda is, and then we stick to that. And part of our problem here, Linley, is that we have a one-party union for all the farmers.
Okay.
And we're obliged to be part of that union. So every farmer in the Quebec, small, big, organic, they're unionized under one party.
And you weren't able to get that whole union behind this?
No, because it's these farms and that's tricky.
Yeah.
But the rebellion wasn't well organized.
I imagine it's a busy place out there. Like you're generating some politically active people that are excited about the types of farms that you all are spinning off out of here.
I think you're right. At one point, I felt it. There's not to say that there's a spin-off, but there's less opportunities than when we started.
You feel that?
I feel that. So that's disturbing in many ways. And then the fact that organic is coming in the grocery stores at a lower price point is not good news for nobody in our movement.
It's getting more consolidated, so the price pressure is lower, and we're hearing that from the organic growers.
When COVID hit the grocery store, they really changed the laws. Now they don't buy locally anymore.
Really?
Yeah, they have.
Man, we were the ones that saved everybody. I can't believe how much we sold during those first 2 years of COVID.
Imagine if that would have been
continued.
That would have been epic.
Yeah.
And the proof is there. It could have.
Yeah.
How's your farm on a personal level? You're really busy with all the work you're doing with ROP, but is your farm doing good? Are you satisfied where it's at?
Yeah.
Are you?
No, we're finally at a place where it's we just hit repeat every year.
Yeah.
And it's working better and better every year. Our tomatoes that was taken last week.
Oh, we have a
those
photo.
Stems,
see that.
They're 60 feet long, maybe 80 feet long.
Look at that.
So
that's doing it like a real pro, for sure.
Well, Dave taught me how to do it. That's the pipe rail there.
Tell us about the pipe rail, because I think a lot of market gardeners
it's everything.
Maybe not too familiar with it.
Oh my gosh.
It's the system.
I could not believe how much, because I have two greenhouses. This one has pipe rail, the other doesn't.
Okay.
I'm just going to be transparent. I make $20,000 in the non-pipe rail greenhouse. And I make $80,000 in the pipe rail greenhouse. This one's 34 by 100. The other's 30 by 100.
Just because of labor savings? Net is what you mean? Or?
No, this is gross. What I gross out of there. It's a little bit higher.
Okay.
Because what you want to do is you want your plants, see how the tomatoes are off the ground completely?
Yeah.
So you want to be doing all your plant work at 11 feet at least. Otherwise, when you lower and lean, those tomatoes are going to be on the ground. And that makes a big difference in just every tomato that ripens, we harvest. There's zero waste.
Yeah.
And, Dave taught me all this. You've got a harvest cart that rides, and the hot water runs through the pipe rail.
Elevator cart?
Yeah, it's like one of those.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's got the scissor lift. Yes.
Yeah.
Scissor lift.
I got it from Holland. It was a huge expense for us. It was $11,000.
But it's the system.
Used, but it's the system. And I mean, you climb up the ladder, you move it,
That's what we do. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, you just put your foot on the pedal and you're up here like this.
Yeah.
And when you get old, like it's really nice to do work.
A lot to be said for
like
how
this.
easy that is on the body, isn't it?
Yes, it's amazing.
You're not going to be as exhausted at the end of a session of work in there.
Yeah. And I didn't get how integral pipe rail was to the whole story because, well, I took really bad advice when I first started growing. I did the coils underneath the soil, like how you build a house from an engineer.
Yes.
Throw that system out.
I made that mistake
Don't do that. Yeah,
Don't do that.
The roots don't like to be hot.
No.
So then, and gosh, it was so not sustainable either because I like insulated the ground because the engineer that helped me was like, oh, you're going to lose all your heat out of the ground. And so, you just put all this crap under the soil. So dumb. Don't do that. So, I mean, take advice from someone like Dave, who's been doing it for 40 years and probably made all these mistakes already. So I got lucky. But I was traveling with Davey, who is in Vermont also, and we were for the Real Organic Project. And he kept saying over and over again, oh yeah, so you're showing the gang. Yeah, they got a fast forward of how they lower and lean every week.
Plants look great.
But Davey kept saying to every grower, he was like, do you have pipe rail? And they were like, nah, you really should get pipe rail. And then finally it hit me. I was like, I think I really should get pipe rail. It took me like 7 times hearing it.
Got
into me. But like the other farmers didn't have the privilege of like the 7 years. I look at my face. I'm in DC there, like lobbying.
Looks like it.
We actually had the huge fires that we've had in the Southwest. One started because we have this train, and the train started it.
Oh, right. We heard about it.
And we were planting. It was like at the beginning of June, we were planting, and we just set up this, camera that goes, and the fire started taking off in front of the, where it's like time lapse.
Yeah.
So we planted this whole row, and like the fire was getting bigger in the background, and we got like a little viral video a couple years ago. But we like to do those, watch us for an hour and fast motion. Yeah.
Farm time lapses are good.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a farm in our network that had the train crash by their farm and then wiped out the farm stand? And
oh, geez.
Wasn't that out in Colorado?
That's in Quebec. That's in I'm forgetting.
I thought it was in Colorado. I thought it was.
Oh, was it in Colorado?
We definitely have had some hazards.
2 or 3 years ago?
We had this huge fire. We didn't have a train crash, but we also had the Gold King mine spill.
I remember now.
Which was like an EPA spill where the river released all these heavy metals and this orange line came down the river. Our CSA pickup was during the time, and all the people were watching the orange line from our CSA like cross the bridge, it's all these heavy metals. So we've had a few
35 by 180K.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that.
Pick that up.
Sorry, I go everywhere.
That's what we're doing in our greenhouses.
Yeah. So we started our seed too early last year. We started it in mid-October, and then we got powdery mildew. So we're like, okay, let's because we're not that great at controlling it's so dependent on the environment that you create in the greenhouse. I love the happy soils create happy plants, but it also has to do with how are you regulating your greenhouse environment. So we're getting better at that, but you get too many clouds in December, and that's when you get disease coming in. It's a lot harder to regulate.
So you're growing in December?
Well, so now we do put greens in for a couple months. Okay. So now we start our tomatoes in late December, our seed, and then we plant those out in February. And we've gotten through those cloudy months. I mean, we're in Southwest Colorado, so we get a lot of sun.
Yeah.
And so we don't have to be as good as Dave is in controlling your environment where we are, because we get past the clouds and we get more light. So basically they're in the ground from February, and they're still going. They look that healthy. This was just last week. And then we'll pull them in December and do 2 months of greens again. So that's our cycle. Yeah.
Nice.
And that no liquid fertility, because like I said, that nitrogen, it's too hot, and you'll have problems with your soil over time if you're liquid feeding. So it's only compost, and you sprinkle right on top of you don't want to front heavy too much either.
Yeah.
So just sprinkle it on top of the drip line every 3 weeks, and that's slow, continuous fertility. That feels really sustainable. So this kid, Matt, to the right of my crazy face there, that's Matt.
We're looking at her Instagram. It's Adobe House Farm.
Adobe House Farm. Check it out.
Okay, wait, go up to that first picture there. Yeah, so that's Matt on the left, and my brother Reed on the right. So he runs the farm, Reed, and my husband, Pete, and this guy, Matt, there. We weren't hiring anybody, and he emailed us a bunch, and he was like, oh, I really want to come work on the farm, and, we just weren't hiring, so I didn't reply. So he shows up, he's like, I'm just going to volunteer. So we're like, great. And then it starts raining, which it never rains in Colorado. And we all run inside, and he just stays out there and starts working. We're like, oh, man, this guy's in it. And he hasn't left for like 4 years now. And he's the coolest guy ever. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to work on this farm. And he just came. And he hasn't left since.
Pro
he
tip
lives
for
on
how
the
to get
farm.
a job, people. Just show up and start working.
Don't leave.
It's like in Seinfeld, Kramer does that.
I'm really happy that, Linley, that you're sharing that story of your farm, because I didn't know about your farm, and I didn't really know. You see the scissor lift here, really cool stuff. So I'm happy because when I talked to Dave, obviously he made the move to scale up his operation to go wholesale.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying when you're telling the story of all these small farms. If we don't have a market to grow into, then we can't have new farms.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that you yourself would not like to be the person that scales up. Because
it's a different life.
It's a different life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem so wonderful.
Yeah, you start managing people, which
and then
I've had to learn how to do.
You invest a lot of money to double and triple, and it's just like it becomes, you need a warehouse, and then 1 truck, 2 truck, 3 truck, delivery guy, and it becomes this whole other operation where you're, in the end, you're managing.
Yeah.
I don't want to say, the word's not factory, more of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
warehouse
kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, and Dave's operation is only 2 acres, and he's got 30 people working for him, so it is a different scale, but it's not a huge farm,
No, it's not a huge farm.
But what he does is very different than what I would want to do.
Yeah.
Because you end up really having to run a business and worry about markets all the time. I hate marketing. So, and there's other farmers that love going to talk to a chef. And
plus, you're not, the market price is not changing under your nose.
Right.
You're going farmer's market. You're doing CSA.
Yes.
You're setting the price.
And I want that $7 a pint cherry tomato, which half sells at that point, and the other half is wholesale.
So you're fighting for us all, and you're also very in tune with
the small farm.
Small farm.
But that's because I'm seeing that the small farms aren't making it anymore in my community. And Emily will say, go to Oklahoma, guys. There's a ton of room for you here. Their land's affordable. There's still tons of markets. And so, of course, there's a lot of opportunity to do that. But I'm seeing in my farm, nobody else can come into cherry tomatoes. We've got that market cornered. We are a 34 by 100, 3,400 square feet of tomatoes, and our market's saturated. So that's ridiculous, So I'd like to see us step back from farmers market and actually just sell at natural grocers.
But is that what you're going to do?
I can't. I don't want that $1.30 price point.
Exactly. So you're not going to do it.
I'm not going to do it, and it's a loss to our community, right? But it's not that I would scale at my farm. I would just create the space for someone else to sell at farmers market if I could do that.
Yeah.
So every community is at a different point in this story.
Oh yeah, what you just said about Oklahoma reminds me of something we talk about a lot, which is the idea of, a lot of farmers that come to here, like where we are right now in Fredericksburg and this region in Quebec, they're always so amazed and say, wow, because there's so many small little businesses and small farms, and they're so inspired by it. And people want to come to that to start their farm. Yeah. And then we often say, though, well, it's only that way because someone sitting next to me, you're one of these people that created that movement and created the snowball that then led to it being this way. It wasn't always this way.
Yeah.
And so people actually, it's like, do we need to find the good market or do we need to create the good market?
Exactly.
Because there's so many places that don't have it. And maybe all it takes is one business to start a snowball to then suddenly the neighbors are like, oh, what's going on? And then the farmer's market gets created. And they're like, I love going here. We didn't have this before.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's so much, the biggest piece of hope of all of the negative stuff we can say is that there's just so much work to do. And I mean that in a positive way.
Yeah,
like how exciting that is that there's so
many country town that needs farmers markets and good growers and good quality tomatoes.
And so much room for us all to take apart and enjoy.
But you're right. Like if we're all farming at the same place, in Durango
Yeah.
or in Frelighsburg. You know, there's a limit to that.
Yeah. But there's like more work to do even where the market's saturated because like I said, we're not on the grocery store shelves. And what if, you know, you're already in, say you're a customer and you love my tomatoes and you have someone over for dinner and you're like, try this, you know?
Yeah.
And then what if everybody starts demanding at natural grocers, how many people would it take to say, why aren't you selling Adobe House Farm tomatoes here?
Yeah.
You know, how many would it take for them to shift?
Can you imagine that the natural grocer is owned by the farmers?
Oh, yeah. That'd be nice, huh?
That's possible.
Yeah.
You see that also in France. These are farmer co-ops.
Farmer owned.
They're owned by the farmers, and then
Yep. We have a lot of work to do.
But that's also an option.
Yeah.
To reclaim, you know, the marketplace. The whole system. Just to create these alternative. It's probably going to be hard to compete against Whole Foods because they're pretty well rigged. But imagine you have something really nice, well done.
Back to these co-ops.
Yeah.
Right? We're not going to want to run a grocery store, but I guarantee you somebody in our community would do it.
Yeah, but you might want to be the owner.
Or on the board.
Yeah. You don't want to run it, but you might want to be the owner.
Yeah.
You'd have 5%, 2%.
Yeah.
And then you get a kickback if it goes well. Why not?
Yep.
Anyway, there's room for that.
Yeah, there's a room for a lot of work.
When I see a farm like yours, what it tells me is that the impact of having such high quality craftsmanship will be probably very influential to the growers in your area, because once you see a farm like that, you're like, okay, this is how tomatoes are grown.
Yeah.
And then there's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Which is important. So you get high quality
Yep.
growers because they see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And they get to try that carrot or whatever, and it tastes so good. So that people want in.
A pivot to a moment of geeking out.
Okay.
Ooh.
I've heard you say mycorrhizae will survive and thrive with the plow. So it sounds like you're saying that no-till is not so black and white.
Thank you for asking that.
Can you, as your PhD soil science self and plant pathology, elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, I don't know if you know who Suzanne Simard is.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
she's
famous,
lovely. You mean the author of the mother?
Finding the Mother Tree?
Yeah, Finding the Mother Tree, exactly.
Yeah, so a lot of people have had this idea, but when I was back in graduate school, still, like not having chosen my research or anything, I was asking my mycology professor, I was like, so there are these threads underneath connecting all the roots. Like, what? Are they, transporting anything? Are there defense compounds? Because I was a plant pathologist. Maybe some of the resistant tomatoes are passing defense compounds to some of the susceptible ones. Mm-hmm. That was one of my questions. And I was like, I kept asking it because I thought, you're the professor, you're going to know the answer, And he kept being like, and so finally he goes, all right, let's do the experiment. So I had a pot and, everything gets so reduced, right? So you've got like potting soil and you inoculate. I couldn't even get the Mycorrhizae to inoculate the tomato plants to start studying this. So first I had to figure out how to do that. And the professor was like, there's too much nitrogen in your potting soil. So the plant is not going to form this relationship with the fungus because you're fertilizing it too much. So there's no interest for the plant to get any photosynthates. So they're not even going to let that happen. So it's like, okay, now we've got to figure out how to grow in a nutrient limiting environment. And then boom, the mycorrhizae infect. So, think about on our organic farms. If there's too much readily available fertilizer, no mycorrhizal interactions.
Even if you put a lot of wood chips.
I got
on JM. He was like, we're going to measure the effect of wood chips. And I was like, dude, you can't measure that. It's too complex. So I was hard on you. But anyway, I'm going in a million directions. I think when you ask no-till, the whole thing is you got to save the mycorrhizae, But these farms are fertilizing and they're herbiciding. There's no mycorrhizae there to save because you're using synthetic fertilizer. So maybe the spores are there.
Or too much compost.
Even too much compost, too much phosphorus.
And nitrogen.
Yeah. So you want slow, but phosphorus is really key for mycorrhizal fungi. So you want really slow release of these like constantly cycling organic matter. And that's what tillage does, is you grow huge biomass, often flail mow, And then you incorporate that, and that's really slow fertility release for the next crop. And that's when you get environments where mycorrhizae are like, hey, I want to partner with this plant. I got something to offer it that's limiting for them, and then I get photosynthate. So, and when winter hits, the crop dies, mycorrhizae are obligate symbionts. So they need a living host in order to survive. When winter hits, what do you think this fungus does? Like, does it just disappear? It stays in the root fragments alive, and it's got spores that stay alive. So this whole thing of like, you're killing the mycorrhizae when you till, they know how to survive winter. So they're going to be just fine in the root fragments as either an endospore, like a spore that'll last up to 10 years in the soil, or just hanging out in the root fragments, the hyphae. So no problem for tillage. And people are always talking about fungi, like as if they're all one thing, first of all. And I think they mean mycorrhizae because those are like the sexy fungi right now, you know? So I think, have you ever heard of this Dunning-Kruger effect?
Of course,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, you're awesome.
The more, people that know the least think they know the most, and the more you...
I think that's what's happening. So like words, they're all talking about fungal to bacterial ratios. And I'm like, what are you talking about? First of all, fungi are so diverse. So to think fungi are good, bacteria are bad, that's oversimplified, right? There's all these plant growth promoting rhizobacteria. Those are bacteria. And there's all these like plant pathogenic fungi, which are bad. So just like automatically it's like fungi good, bacteria bad, you know, and like put in wood chips and you're going to get all these fungi. Well, that's just like one fungus that might like to break down a wood chip. So and that's not mycorrhizal, you know? So I just feel like there's a lot of really confident talk out there with like zero background for what people are saying, and it's spreading, and it's all this.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, and were you disturbed by that when you hear these no-till theories, and you're like, oh my god?
Yes, because the best farmers in the country are growing their own fertility.
Yeah, that's the best proof you need. Like,
yeah, so I was like they were the ones that when this no-till phenomena was sweeping the nation, they're like, oh, maybe I should rethink what I'm doing.
Exactly.
And you had like Paul Muller at Full Belly, like doing all these experiments, and like the best grower in the country. They all step up to the plate, and they're like, we're going to change our organic system, even though our soil organic matter is off the charts. You know, we've been doing this for 20 years, 40 years, growing organic, keep maintaining our soil organic matter with cover cropping and tillage. And we're going to be the ones to step up and figure out how to do this in organic systems. And they lost money. They lost yields. And these are the best growers. Yeah. And I mean, that just is a testament to like the strength of the organic movement. It's like these growers they're up for the challenge, and they're going to try to improve themselves. And in the end, I feel like we were asking them to change a system that was just proven and was working.
We weren't asking them, though. I think they just got because there's a lot of hype, and then you question yourself, and you're like, oh, tilling, perhaps. Oh, not so much. So I think, and there's a lot of confusion.
Yeah. Well, there's nuance there, right?
Yeah, but there's also confusion. And I don't think it was, I just think there was some people that just came out with these ideas and they didn't really know what they were talking about, but they were very convincing.
Or if you want to be more conspiratorial, you could say it was the herbicide companies
that
were pushing no-till.
It's still confusing because, well, for one, there's loads of people in our world that use the word no-till, and we've been included in that. But I think the difference might be that like whenever we've said it, we didn't really mean in like the fully dogmatic way of like never disturb whatsoever. It's more just like a buzzword to show your intent that you don't just willy-nilly till up all the time.
Till without the incorporation of organic matter.
Right. And
that's a problem.
Until constantly, until at the wrong time, and till just to solve all of any problem you have, like, okay, start over, retill, and, you know. So, but why do you, I don't know, it's a weird issue because I know there's listeners like, but I'm no-till, and it's like, we're not trying to dunk on you, and I'm not personally, but why do you think we have this kind of dogma issue where it's like people are seeing it in all or one, and then what about the people that, you know, say, yeah, but the forest floor, Linley, like, isn't that our perfect example, and that doesn't get tilled up, quote unquote, and do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah,
the
so I think,
floor.
Well,
how
okay.
How are you going to debate that?
I love Elaine Ingham for bringing the Soil Food Web ideas.
I'm so happy you gave that name because I was wondering, are we going to say that name?
I love her for spreading how cool the soil is and like look under the microscope and see how much is alive. But I don't think that we can create a forest ecosystem in our annual crop situation.
Well, it's obviously just not
and
that.
She's a forest biologist. And so when she's talking about mycorrhizae, the forests tend to have ectomycorrhizae, which create these like really thick, they're called mantles of hyphal fungi that are all like combined together, and they totally wrap the roots of the trees are in this sheath that's ectomycorrhizal. And those are mostly trees, have those relationships. On our farms, we're growing annuals. And those are endomycorrhizal relationships. VAM is what they're called, vesicular arbuscular mycorrhizae. And they tend to be like not so host specific. So what Elaine Ingham is describing is a very different ecology. And we're never going to get that in our annual systems. And so when you say, gosh, the forest ecosystem, the soils, they have a ton of fungi, she's right. But it's not the fungi that we're going to be growing over here in our fields. So
so it's not a perfect analogy.
It's not a good analogy. And it's funny.
I've never heard that before. I'm so happy that I'm hearing it now.
Yeah, I mean, I am a soil biologist, but I don't even send my soils out for testing.
You just taste them now. Need molybdenum.
That's a great way to...
No.
Because we think that we're just going to get an answer, and that's the answer.
But
and
it's
the world is so complex. And you even send the same soil samples out to different labs. You get different answers.
results.
They have different extraction processes. Even with the same extraction processes, you can't just like zap it with a laser and get the answer. You know, you have to do extractions and then run it through different machines and stuff. So anyway, my point is none of this is simple. And I think we oversimplify that. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
And it's like I've gone to so much school that I realize I know nothing, you know?
Exactly.
It's you're over the hump of confidence. It's like you know a little bit about a topic and you get really confident and then you know more and more and more and then all of a sudden you have zero confidence. And that's where I am. And I'm like, I know nothing. There was a really cool podcast that I did with Tim Bowles at UC Berkeley. And he believes in no-till. Okay. But he said it takes 10 years for you basically not to touch the soil to get some really incredible effects. And if you go test your soil, he said, picture like there's a pool and a waterfall. And say you're trying to figure out how much nitrogen to add. And you've got this waterfall coming in and you've got water flowing out. And you're just testing what's in the pool. And he's like, it could be a huge flow of water coming in, or it could be a trickle, and you have no idea because all you're testing is the results of what's in this pool right now. And so you could get a test result, and it's a really tiny pool, and it could mean that you need to add nothing because what's about to come in, this is the organic matter that's being decomposed. Maybe you have a ton of that, and that's about to be, available to your plant. Right. Or maybe you just have a little trickle, and what you're testing is the pool. And so the job of the organic farmer is to keep that flow coming in and to keep it cycling. And that's what growing a cover crop, flail milling it, incorporating it into the soil does, is you're cycling. You're not really sequestering. If you're in a forest, you're sequestering carbon. But our job as organic farmers is to keep that cycle going.
Would you use a rototiller?
Yeah.
You would.
We do.
To incorporate that green manure, you'll take a real rototiller.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. And Emily Oakley has the best cover cropping because she's in Oklahoma.
Yeah, and she's
the cover crops are twice the height of, Mike, who's 6 foot or something like that, her husband. And they're tilling deep. No problem because
but tilling is one thing, but rototilling.
How else would you get it under?
You mean inverting?
Yeah.
Like an inversion?
You could plow it in and disc it in, but...
Yeah, I guess I don't know enough about the different ways. So maybe you could incorporate that with just a disking or some other tool, some other implement is what you're saying, rather than rototilling. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
Modelaine, my wife, she would not...
Because of the hard pan that you create? Is that the concern?
Because, over the years, she's like, she's read all these same books about no-till, and she's like, yeah, I don't think I want to use a rototiller on my beautiful soil.
Yeah.
It's been on permanent beds for 20 years. And
so how does she incorporate the organic matter?
We flail mow it like you do, but then we take
you tarp it.
We tarp it, and then we raise our beds, and then we put soil from the aisles. We shoot it onto the bed.
So cool.
Yeah,
See, there's a million systems that can work.
It's very cool. But my point here is like, well, let's say I use a rototiller, but it's doing a lot of good. Why would I not use it?
Because you found another system that works for you. And that's what's so cool about our farms is that...
I know, but I just would prefer to have the real knowledge instead of thinking something that might, No.
Well,
you have the real knowledge.
The real notorious thing, though, is the
is it working?
Is the idea of the original plow motion of just simply
inversion,
flipping,
yeah,
where you're bringing stuff from 8 inches up to the top, and what was at the top down, and then you're.
And Elliot talks about that anoxic, pasture that you just flipped over, and now it's like this layer that's not going to decompose. So he talked about the inversion being a problem.
So I think that's really the crux of what I think we're always trying to talk about when we talk about not. We're talking about not inverting, not necessarily not mixing. I mean, that's what the power how does, right? It mixes, but it doesn't invert.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know everything, but like I go to see a farmer with a ton of principles, and they've figured out, in their 14-year rotations, a time when they need to use the moldboard plow. I'm not going to tell them they're wrong.
Come on, no.
You know what I mean? So whatever works in your system.
Yeah, you see it. You see the quality of the soil, the quality of the produce.
Yeah.
And if it makes sense, then
Yeah.
I've always said that. Like for me, like Fred here, Jardin Tessa, the best grower I've met in my journey in farming. And he tills and plows and discs, and he's just growing amazing crop for 30 years. Like, how can you argue with that? You can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
And what works where it's wet is not going to work out in California where it's dry.
Exactly.
So it's a continuum. But of course, the exchange of knowledge locally is what the organic movement has always been about. And as long as we keep doing that and pushing each other, I don't think we have all the answers.
Yeah. That sounds like a conversation for an episode 2.
Ooh, I would love that.
Soil episode. I don't know.
Yeah, I would love that.
That's just one of my biggest gripes. Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. That the regenerative no-till religion, that dogma.
Oh my God.
Dogma
drove me crazy.
Dogma should always be something we're cautious of. Any way you slice it, dogma is just, it's not supposed to be a good word. You're not supposed to think dogma, good.
Yeah.
So, are we ready for rapid fire?
Yes. Over the years, I've seen a lot of, it's like, that's what happens when you've been around for a long time. You start to see trends that fade in, fade out.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a final question.
Okay.
I see in my notes one thing that I did not want to miss. And I want to talk about local versus global thinking. And I think it was actually in your church down talk where you talked about the idea of, a lot of people they see how big the world's problems are. And, you could even apply like the Stoic philosophy of your locus of control, which makes a lot of sense. And it's like, okay, I can't change the whole world, so I'm just going to focus on my community. And we all, I think, agree with that because we, especially as small scale farmers, we believe in this idea of like, okay, I can't change what's happening overseas, but I can change what's happening on my street, in my town. So we hunker down and focus on that. But you brought to the equation the idea that like, yeah, you can definitely do that, but you are being drastic. You're being immensely affected by things that are happening in Indonesia, in the rainforest. And whether you like it or not, like choices that people are making in your community are deforesting 1 million acres somewhere else because of palm oil or something like this. And I think you showed an image of a Brazilian forest like 20 years ago versus now, and just, it's depressing to look at.
Yeah.
So what do you think? How should we think about local versus global thinking? And are people not realizing this enough? And what do you think?
Remember when we were growing up and you recycle? That was like our big push. It's like getting recycling installed at our school. That was like...
Yeah, recycling was a huge...
Yeah, that was like what you did at our time. And then, maybe 10 years ago, you realize nothing's getting recycled, you know, and it's just like devastating. Like that's what we did to save the earth, and none of it's working. It's all getting dumped in the ocean. So, I guess then you go through these existential crises that nothing matters. And especially like I get really into geological time and like, how did life evolve? And, you know, all these extinction events, and this moment in time is irrelevant. So I you know what I mean? Like it's all going to just erode away someday, and there'll be some other form of life. You know,
Very
there'll probably be slime after we're done.
Nothing matters because...
you get into those dark times. And I try to channel Jane Goodall, who we just lost a couple of weeks ago, but she has been a huge figure in my life. And ironically, Emily Oakley's life too. Emily knew her. And when she was on the National Organic Standards Board, she would speak with Jane and, you know, get advice for how to get through some of these ugly fights. But Jane was hired by Louis Leakey because he thought that she wouldn't have any biases to go study the chimpanzees. And then she figured out that they, you know, were the first non-human to have tools. And it was this like, she was belittled and, you know, disregarded for her observations. And she persevered because of who she was. She truly felt that it was her calling to try to make a difference in this world, and that every action, every individual mattered. And that's like the exact opposite feeling that I was having, like none of this matters, you know? So I try to kind of channel that energy, because over her life, she was able to be so effective because she came at every conversation that this one-on-one interaction, it makes a difference. Yeah. And she had two women who were also hired around the same time, a little bit later, to study the other great apes. I don't know if you know this story. So there's Baruti Galdicus to study orangutans, and I actually got to take a course from her in college. And Diane Fossey, who was murdered because she was trying to help the gorillas, the mountain gorillas. And one you've never heard of, one was so fierce she was murdered, and one changed the world. And so I try to channel that energy. I'm actually more like Diane Fossey. I'm a little bit like rah-rah.
Yeah.
But I don't think that gets you anywhere. I don't think that affects change. And Jane, everybody should go watch the video that she recorded to be released after the end of her life.
All about it. It's on Netflix. Isn't it?
I think it's just 3 minutes. It's on YouTube. Maybe it's on Netflix too.
I think they put it there, yeah.
Yeah. And her message is everything you do matters. And even it's a better place to live, even if you don't believe it. Exactly. You know what I mean?
It's good faith.
Yeah, why not? And that means that, you know, these conversations, the connections that you make, even when I was talking to the hydroponic organic guy last night for an hour, we made a connection, and probably I could have done better with the Driscoll's guy at the meeting before, you know, if I had channeled a little bit of Jane. Because the fact that we did make a connection, maybe he'll think about it a little bit, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. He probably will and is.
I mean, at least...
If you connect, though. You need to connect first.
You need to.
Connect
yeah,
first.
and you'd think we'd be at polar opposites. I had just called out, you know, everything he does in front of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then we connected. So anyway, I guess my point is I don't think anything will get better unless we think that way. And why not? You really don't have a choice. I see it that way. Because it's no way to live, to just like give up and have these existential crises that nothing matters. I'd much prefer to be in good company, trying to make a difference. It's a good life, you know?
It's not fun to live a life where your values and actions don't ever match.
And it's not fun to live a combative life either. So this just feels right. And it's not easy. It's really easy when you meet these guys. You're so pissed at them, you know, to just like come in and be like, how dare you?
Yeah.
How do you sleep at night? You know, but I didn't feel so good after that interaction. Anyway.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, there's something to be learned
there.
from Jane. And I hope everybody can be inspired by her as I was.
Rapid fire.
Are you familiar with this segment where we ask quick questions?
Yeah, but I don't know the questions, so this is truly going to be rapid.
Great. And they don't have to be that quick.
I don't know how long I've been blabbing to you all. Sorry about that.
What's a book you've read many times, or if you prefer, one that you've been thinking a lot about recently.
So easy. Kristen Kimball's Dirty Life.
Yeah, you like that book.
I love that book
gosh.
too.
Nice.
When I read that book, I just felt so seen and heard. When she described the,
Do it.
it excites me because when she described the scene of entering that farmhouse for the first time, there's mason jars everywhere and it's so dirty. That was precisely my experience of seeing the farmhouse that I ended up living in shortly after the first time, and the mason jars everywhere and all that. I've never seen it before in my life. It was a whole other way of living that I was suddenly thrust into and just was blown away by it. So yes, continue.
Well, and then her second one, Good Husbandry, I listen to over and over again in the middle of the night when I can't sleep because she is so real about, I mean, this is when her kids were young and like financially it was so hard. And for me, it was sort of devastating. It was like, oh, we're going to go start this farm with our little baby. And, and you just have this vision of what it's going to be. And then you feel like you've failed because it was so hard to get land and to get through all that. And I just found peace in company that like I wasn't the only one that's been through this, so I'll listen to that even still in the middle of the night. It's just like I have it on audio and I'll play her voice and it's like, it's okay. Other people have struggled too and we're on the other side of it and the struggle was worth it. So I think she speaks a lot of truth. It's a good book.
It's in the book club now.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What advice did you hear when you were really young that you only appreciated much later in life?
Don't go into farming unless you're not okay with failure. Because you're going to fail a lot. And that came true.
Someone told you this early on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And you were like, nah.
Yeah, you got an ego. You're like, oh, I'll be all right.
I'll figure this
I know
out.
how to garden.
What's advice that you give often to people?
Ooh, same one. Definitely be okay with failure. Be kind to yourself. Somebody told me go live out west. I grew up in the East and that stuck. And I'm so glad I did that. So if you can't live there, travel there. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a symbolism to be said too of go live somewhere else in the mind for a moment, aka like get out of your normal way of thinking and try to experience something or think.
Yeah, go in the sun.
I don't know.
Like,
anyway.
Yeah, whatever. That's just what sang to me
Yep.
and worked out.
What are people not talking about enough?
The importance of every decision. Like your choices matter. I wish that we felt more empowered. We've seen over our life so many things not pan out, go the way we wanted, but it still matters. And that's why I like Jane. That's her message.
The ripple effect or butterfly effect.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
What's a nature experience that sticks out in your memory in your lifetime?
Okay, so I got to go abroad in college to Kenya, and I got to climb Mount Kenya, but not like when you go as a tourist, you pay porters and stuff. So I just went as part of my school. One of the teachers took us out to climb it, and it's a 17,000 foot ascent. A lot of people do Kilimanjaro, and so there's a lot because there's a glacier there, and there's a lot more people, and it's actually not as hard. And so I just went with a teacher and another student, and they were both like really fit. And it was like there was a part where my knees were so sore, and we were coming down. I had like altitude headaches, and the two guys I was with, they were just like, we'll go around the switchbacks, and we're just gonna run down this like glacial moraine of all these rocks, loose rocks. And they were down in like 10 minutes, and my knees were killing me. I had this huge pack, and I was like, fuck. I got to keep up with these men. I can't be the girl that holds them back. And it took me probably a half an hour to get down this thing that they just ran down. And every step, my knees were hurting. But when I look back at that experience, I don't remember the pain. I was crying going down. It was so hard. I look back at how, like, when times are really hard, they're usually these trips that are worth doing. I remember the landscape and the, incredible trip that it was, all the wildlife that we saw. You go through an elephant forest. And I think in order for things to be memorable, they're often hard. And it's okay. That's worth living, right?
Yeah.
It's if it's hard to do, it's probably something that's memorable and worth it.
What's the best food experience of your past year?
Past year.
Or you could extend it further if something pops out to you.
Well, I hate to say Stone Barns because that's like
Well, it can be.
so incredible.
Yeah,
But it does stand out for you, what you're saying.
Why
Oh, yeah.
not, you know?
Oh, I'm sorry I don't get to eat at your restaurant. But Stone Barns, I mean, we saw a guy out the window of the table go running up and they harvested sunflowers. And then they came back and they like, a bouquet for you? And I thought it was just a bouquet of sunflowers. And they had taken one of the flowers, and deep fried it and then like put it on top of the flower bouquet. And we were supposed to take the chip, you know? It was just, and they cut the middle of the sunflower, and it was like a bone marrow stem, you know, and who knows all the things that were in there. But everything was so thoughtful and such an honor of the farmer and so fresh. So I imagine that's what your restaurant's like, you know, just the creativity and coming directly from the farm to the table. What was displayed there was absolutely beautiful. So much honor to the farmer.
What's a great, difficult decision you've had to make in your life that at the time seemed like a disaster, but turned out for the best in the end?
Well, see, at the time, it didn't feel like a disaster to start the farm, to quit the jobs. But it turned out great in the end, but it actually was a disaster.
Oh, there's an interesting twist.
So funny. It's so funny.
So, I mean, that's the best example I've got is, you know, what we thought was a good decision, I think ultimately was, but had no idea how hard it was going to be.
Exactly.
Interesting. Well, that might answer my next question because it is a bit of a similar question. It's a failure you've had, a notable one that at the time felt like a disaster, but turned out for the best. And maybe it's the fact that first.
Well, the first season, we're amazing tomato farmers now, but we didn't even get a ripe tomato that first season because the nights are so cold in Colorado, and I learned how to grow in the East, actually in Maine, and like things just grow there. And the cold nights made it so that an 80-day tomato was like a 100-day tomato. And I mean, talk about a failure. Like I didn't harvest one tomato that first year.
Goodness. That's humbling.
The second year, or maybe it was the third year, we got hailed on. And so we had picked a earlier ripening Roma tomato, and out in the field had really invested a lot because we had a market with a Mexican restaurant that was going to make pico out of our tomatoes. And then right when they were ready, it was like the third week of September, you know, huge harvest, and we got hailed on. And this restaurant, talk about like a community that's supportive, had freezer space. We got like 30 people to come out to the farm, harvest all the green and red. And we separated the green and red, and she made a sauce. And then she made like a green tomato pico. And we were able to freeze everything within a day. And then she paid me back $1 a pound as she used them in her restaurant throughout that year.
Oh, man.
Isn't that cool?
That's super cool.
Could give it a cool name too, like Hailey's.
I think she did.
Hail Mary salsa.
Yeah. So talk about needing like a system of support.
Of course, social capital.
Yeah.
And what's something else? Final question. What's something else that you're interested in? Totally separate from anything we've spoken.
Fun fact about yourself.
Oh, I love deep geological time.
Geological
Yeah,
time.
like I'll spend time like what was going on X number of years ago, and what was life like, and how does that affect, you know, our health or the way we are now. I really like 4 billion years ago, what was the chemistry in the ocean to create life from nothing, you know, just from, you know, atoms coming together. So that's my obsession.
Are you sure about that part?
No.
What if there was before?
True. But I like, somebody asked me once like what my religion was, and I never know what to say to that because I don't think I really have one. But lately I heard that I'm a Bayesian, which is like I adapt according to the evidence. So I'm open to anything, but I'm evidence-based. And as soon as there's evidence towards something, I'll shift my belief.
Okay.
And I liked that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
You're
so
not stuck.
maybe there's evidence for a multiverse. Now I'll go there, you know? But until then, I'll stick with what we know.
All right. And
How about that?
so you guys, this was a wonderful talk.
Thank you for
thank you so much for making the detour to be here.
and letting me go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Chris. It was a really good talk. Thank
I just
you for
want
being
to
here.
add that for the listener, we're sitting in the old mill right now in the room where we record, and a lot of times we do these in the morning, in the middle of the day. Today it was at 3:00.
Oh,
and
sorry.
Right now, no. This is not. It's just really funny that I think
dark.
everyone left the building. It's totally dark except our room.
Just us.
It is
And
fun.
I'm actually really enjoying it. It's a nice
It's
ambiance.
just us and it's just you. So if you're listening to this, thank you. This was a great, I was so happy to share. When I said that you were one of my hero, I really mean it.
Thank you,
So
JM.
keep up the good work.
Yeah, no, I had a good time.
All right. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next time. We're out. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. These are important conversations, and we're really excited to have them and to share them with everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to it, download the episodes, and please rate them. It makes a difference for us. We want to know what you think about these conversations. They're important. Check out the work that we do at the Market Gardener Institute. You can check out our website, themarketgardener.com. Our mission is to multiply the number of small ecological farms around the world. And we do this by offering training, online courses to new aspiring farmers, but also to seasoned growers. We're helping them take it to the next level. So you can check out the work that we do. You can follow us on social media. You can sign up to our newsletter to get a lot of freebies about gardening, farming, but also about how small-scale farming is changing the world. And that's really what we're all about, and that's really what this is all about. So again, thank you for tuning in. Super excited that you guys are on board. We are changing the world.